So you wake up once and you say that, oh, I see God. I see God. And then someone around you comes and says, that sounds profound. Could you be reflecting on something profound? Are you expressing a spiritual feeling? Could you be experiencing a moment of awe or seeking deeper meaning? And then he tells you it is important that you recognize and honor that moment. And he asks you to share what you are feeling or experiencing. And he tells you, I just want to listen and help in whichever way I can. You see, the phrase, I see God, can be interpreted in a variety of ways, depending on one's spiritual, philosophical, or even psychological perspective. It carries a deep sense of meaning and often evokes contemplation on existence, divinity, and the nature of perception itself. Now, from a religious or a spiritual context, in religious traditions, quite a number of them, seeing God can be understood as experiencing divine presence, either through a mystical vision or an inner feeling of unity with the divine. In Christianity, for instance, the idea of seeing God is often associated with moments of profound faith or transcendence. The Bible references instances where people like Moses having a glimpse of God's glory, though it is not said that, it is often said that no one can fully behold God's essence and live, because that is what Exodus 33:20 says. You can't see God and live. In other religious traditions, you know what happens. But seeing God is often described as an overwhelming feeling of connection, love, and understanding that transcends the material world. Now, from mystical experiences, in mystical traditions, people describe experiencing God not as a physical entity, but more as a profound awareness or an overwhelming presence that transcends ordinary perception. Mystics often speak of having seen or felt God through deep meditation, prayer, or at times of intense emotional or spiritual surrender. These experiences are sometimes described as an awakening or enlightenment, where the individual transcends the self and encounters the divine. So you have had a mystical experience. You have seen God. So you have seen God, or I see God. It can be taken as a philosophical interpretation. From a philosophical perspective, the statement I see God could be metaphorical. The concept of seeing might refer to a shift in perception, seeing the divine in the natural world, in human connection, or in moments of awe and beauty. Some philosophers suggest that God or the divine is present in all things, and it is our awareness or consciousness that allows us to see. For instance, the German philosopher Hegel believed that the divine or absolute is manifest in the world around us and in our experiences. So I see God can also come out with psychological or from internal reflection. On a psychological level, seeing God might also refer to an intense personal revelation or inner vision. People experiencing heightened emotions or deep self-reflection may encounter imagery or symbols of God, which could be influenced by culture or personal beliefs. The brain is capable of creating vivid experiences, sometimes triggered by altered states of consciousness, intense meditation, or moments of crisis. Now, in terms of the symbolic meaning of seeing, the idea of seeing God might not always mean literal visual perception. It could symbolize an understanding or awakening to divine truth, an insight into life's deeper purpose, or a profound awareness of the interconnectedness of all existence. Seeing God could therefore refer to moments when we feel aligned with a higher purpose, or when we experience a sense of profound meaning or divine order in the universe. In any case, I see God could be a very personal and transformative experience that invites reflection on what the divine means to the individual and how that individual interprets their connection to something greater than themselves. Now let us go to Isaiah 6. Now Isaiah 6 is one of those very rare chapters in the Bible, where the prophet Isaiah experiences a vision of God that transforms him and propels him into his prophetic mission. It is often considered a pivotal moment in the prophet's life. Now let us look at the elements of Isaiah 6. So the vision of God, Isaiah 6 verse 1 to 4. Now in chapter 6, it opens with Isaiah describing his vision of God in the temple. And verse 1 he says, "In the year King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and a train of his robe filled the temple." This vision happens in the year of King Uzziah's death, a significant political event. Uzziah was the king of Judah who had reigned for a long time, and his death marks a time of uncertainty and a transition for the nation. The Lord is depicted as sitting on a high and exalted throne, symbolizing his sovereign rule. The train of his robe filling the temple signifies the grandeur and the majesty of God's presence. Verse 2 tells us that above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With the 2 wings they covered their faces, with the 2 they covered their feet, and with the 2 they were flying. The seraphim is a type of angelic being. They are presented as beings of immense reverence before God. Their multiple wings symbolizes the awe and submission to God. The wings covered their faces and feet to imply humility, acknowledging the holiness of God. Verse 3 tells us that, and they were calling to one another. They were calling to one another, "Holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory." The seraphim's proclamation emphasized God's holiness and the fact that he is holy, his glory fills the earth. The threefold repetition of holy highlights God's absolute purity and separateness from sin. This is one of the most famous proclamations in the Bible, underscoring God's perfection. Holy is the Lord of God I see the Lord. Isaiah's reaction. How does Isaiah react to his vision? Isaiah 5:6. Upon witnessing this divine vision, Isaiah reacts in a state of despair and overwhelming awareness of his own unworthiness. He says, "Woe unto me, I cried. I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." Isaiah's immediate response is one of self-condemnation and fear, recognizing his sinfulness in the presence of such holiness. His confession highlights the contrast between God's perfect purity and human imperfection. In Hebrew thought, seeing God in this way could be a terrifying experience. At least it was believed that no one could survive seeing God's full glory. The second reaction. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, "See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for." So in response to Isaiah's confession, one of the seraphim purifies Isaiah. The coal symbolizes purification, and his action cleanses Isaiah from his sin and guilt, making him worth to serve God. So Isaiah's commissioning, we see that in Isaiah 6:8-13. After his purification, Isaiah hears God's call and receives his commission to go and speak to the people of Israel. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" God asks for a messenger to carry out his will, implying the need for someone to speak to the people of Israel on his behalf. And I said, "Here I am, send me." Isaiah responds eagerly, volunteering to take on the divine mission. His willingness reflects his transformation from a man of unclean lips to one who is now ready to speak for God. He said, "Go and tell these people, be ever hearing, be never understanding, be ever seeing, but never perceiving." God instructs Isaiah to deliver a message of judgment. The people will hear, but they will not understand. They will see, but they will not perceive. This represents the spiritual blindness and hardness of heart of the people of Israel at that time. Make the heart of these people calloused, make their ears dull, and close their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. God forewarns that his message will result in further hardening of the people's hearts. The purpose of Isaiah's mission is not to bring immediate repentance, but to deliver God's judgment, reinforcing the stubbornness of the nation's disobedience. Then I said, "For how long, Lord? For how long, Lord?" Isaiah, now fully aware of the difficult task before him, asked how long he will need to deliver this message. He answered, "Until the cities lie ruined and without inhabitant, until the houses are left deserted and the fields ruined and ravaged, until the Lord has sent everyone far away and the land is utterly forsaken. God reveals that the judgment will continue until Israel has experienced desolation. However, there is a glimmer of hope. And though a tenth remains in the land, it will again be laid waste. But as the terebinth and oak leaf stumps, when they are cut down, so the holy seed will be the stump in the land. So despite the coming of destruction, a remnant of faithful people will remain, symbolized by the stump. This hints at the future restoration of Israel and the ultimate hope of God's salvation. So we may conclude by looking at the themes, the 4 themes that are there in the chapter 6 of the book of Isaiah. The first theme is the holiness of God. God's holiness is the central theme of Isaiah's vision. The vision emphasizes the absolute purity and majesty of God, which contrasts with human sinfulness. The second theme is purification and forgiveness. Isaiah's experience of being purified through the call highlights the process of atonement and reconciliation with God. Now, the next theme, the third, is the call to prophecy. Isaiah's response to God's call to be a prophet demonstrates the willingness to serve even in the face of difficulty and seemingly futile tasks. Judgment and hope. Though God pronounced judgment on Israel, he also offers hope for a remnant that will be preserved and eventually restored. Isaiah 6 is a powerful chapter about encountering the divine, purification, and prophetic mission. It reveals both the awe and terror of encountering God's holiness, the transformation that follows, and the challenging but essential task of bringing God's message to a stubborn and unrepentant people.